First time I ever went upstairs and sat around with these guys, Georgie said, "This is Wes. He don't like nobody, so don't take it personally." Wesley Mone, like Georgie and Joe Frazier, had come to Philadelphia as a child from the Deep South. He had boxed in the Army and had been on the U.S. Army tour of 96 Army bases. It was done with Joe Louis and Sugar Ray Robinson. One of my early boxing mentors had been on that tour as a sparring partner, and Wes knew him. Wes debuted as a pro in 1944. In 1946, in the 27th fight, he knocked out Bob Montgomery in 2 rounds. Like Wes, Montgomery had come to Philadelphia from South Carolina as a child and was one of the top lightweights in this great era of lightweights in the 1940s. That knockout earned West a shot at Montgomery's New York State Athletic Commission title. And during the training for that fight, he suffered attached retina and went ahead with the fight, risking blindness. And it was stopped after 8 rounds, and he never fought again. Quinzel Mcall told me Georgie had more fights than any of them. He said he had over 70 fights. He said, "I only had 7. Quinn told me he got knocked out the last 2 fights he fought and decided it was not for him. But then Georgie said Quinzel has more time in this life than any of us and more experience training fighters than any of us. McCall came from the streets and fought his first fights at the Cambria AC. Georgie said, "You think the Blue Horizon was a bucket of blood? The Cambria AC was a real bucket of blood." It opened as a fight venue in 1913 and was still going into the 60s. And the Kensington area had been on the decline all of my life into its infamous degraded state now, but it was rough even in the 40s. So McCall had quit fighting, but he had never been able to quit the sport. He became a trainer in the late 40s. He had trained Kitten Hayward in the 50s. Quinzel told me that women had ruined more fighters than anything else in his experience, and Kitten Hayward was a prime example. He felt like he could have been champ if he just hadn't chased the women so hard. Quinzel trained Bad Benny Briscoe, and in December of 1965, Briscoe and Hayward fought, and Hayward won a very close decision. In December of 1966, Briscoe moved up to middleweight and challenged Georgie Benton and stopped him inside of 10 rounds. Now here it is 10 years later, and they're still teasing Georgie about this. And there's a lot of laughs. Quinzel was a pretty quiet, behind-the-scenes kind of guy, but he had made considerable contributions to the Philly-style pressure boxing. Stanley Hayward and Benny Briscoe were just 2 prime examples. These slip-and-bang comers would be the prototypes for the Joe Frazier and Dwight Braxton style. He told me that neither technique nor conditioning were the most important thing in boxing. The most important thing was heart. And the only thing he wanted to talk about was stories of heart in boxing. And a lot of those were in losing efforts. He needs to be remembered for the great boxing mind that he had. Both Wes and Georgie had seen Sugar Ray Robinson up close and watched him spar. Georgie used to watch 2 guys spar and shake his head and just say, "He's just swinging." And by his definition, a punch was different. It was non-telegraphic and accurate. A swing starts by rearing back first. And you can't really have shot placement when you're swinging.
You understand what I'm saying to you? Sure, man. You're listening to me? Huh?
I'm excited to offer the first Zoom class of the year on the Philly shell. It's going to be April the 21st, which is Sunday at noon. The shell is the most imitated and probably the most misunderstood tactic that Georgie taught. $25 via PayPal.